In the past, when we've faced difficult times as we are currently experiencing, it has been an opportunity for reinvention. As difficult as it has and can be, such moments push people and institutions to finally act on ideas and plans that have been long delayed. For photographers, whether professional or enthusiast, these moments push us in new directions and create unexpected opportunities. That's been the case with today's guest, Julia Dean, who is the founder of the Los Angeles Center of Photography. After a career as a successful photojournalist, Julia began what was then called the Julia Dean School of Photography. Over the last few decades, LACP has become a thriving photographic community that offers classes and workshops, but most importantly, it creates a community in which photographers of all stripes have grown and thrived. Recent events have led Julia and her team to reinvent LACP, including offering online courses as well as in-person events and workshops, opening up LACP to an audience well outside the Los Angeles area. As with any new effort, there are challenges, but as you'll hear, Julia's passion for photography and for people is why LACP has become such a success and why I believe it will continue to be so in the future. This is Ibadian X, and welcome back to The Candid Frame. But how are you doing otherwise? I know it's a challenging time for you.
It is a challenging time for everybody, but we're hanging in there. We have quite a team between our board of directors and all our friends and donors and students and staff. We've had a lot of people who have really wanted to help us, including you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing what you've built over these many years, especially in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has really always lacked a sort of a central hub for our photo community. There's New York, San Francisco, and other places have always seemed to have it. But I've always felt that one of the best things that you offered outside of the classes was just a place for like people who love photography and want a community to come together. So I've always been supportive of the work you do, and that's why I'm just really want to be a cheerleader for you as you guys go through this transition. Because I think, despite the obvious challenges, I think that there are so many people who are outside the Los Angeles area that could really stand to benefit from not just the classes, but the community that you've built. Let's talk a little about how you're dealing with the restrictions that the pandemic has put on and how you're seeing the reinvention of LACP.
Yes, well, we've had to move quickly, like everybody else. In mid-March, when all the doors were shut down for everyone, our revenue stream completely shut down as well. And as you might know, we just moved into this really beautiful center in December that is, it's costly on a monthly basis, and it's just beautiful, and everybody was so excited about it. We had 5 events before we had to shut the doors, and they were just all packed, and everybody was so excited about the new center and this new beautiful place. And so we hope to, be back to classes in the fall. We've moved everything online in a very amazingly quick manner, thanks to our staff, Kevin and Janice and Brandon and Jason and Sarah, an amazing staff, and everybody just kind of worked around the clock to do what we needed to apply for a lot of grants and a lot of federal aid. We had board of directors helping with that too. We've sent out lots of help us, send money in, tried to get donations. We've done everything we can, and we've gotten some help from a lot of people, and also we just got a federal aid last week, so that's going to just help us tremendously. So we feel very optimistic, which is a completely different than a month ago when this all happened, and it was so scary, and we were all very nervous and very scared. But we didn't have much time to stay scared or nervous or depressed because we had a lot to do. So right. that was a good thing, because it kept our minds off of what could happen, after 21 years of building this place, this beautiful community that we all have. But we just feel very optimistic now. We're just doing everything we can. The aid that we just got really helped a lot. Our board of directors are outstanding and to help us. And our staff is just working so hard to make everything happen. So we're looking at if indeed we can come back to the classroom in the fall. I doubt we're going to be able to ever have a big event for a while. But if we can come back to the classrooms in the fall, then we'll not only have classrooms, but we'll also have online programs, because we've been wanting to do online learning for years. It's just that we've had such a small staff and we've just never had the man or woman power to get it done. And now we really didn't this time either, but we had to, we had to make it happen. So come fall, we'll have both. Brandon came up with a whole series of webinars, which is really neat. And so I think that it kind of pushed us to do some new cool things, and then we'll be able to come back to the classroom as well, hopefully in September. Normally our season starts in July, but we pushed the season back to not starting until September with hopes that more time would be, possible to get back in the classroom.
Yeah, from what I've seen from other downturns, not only the one in 2008, but previously, is that, yes, it's scary, but it seems that the people who have been able to move through it have not just sat there and lamented the fact that things crashed, that business disappeared, is that they looked at it as a time to do something different, to change things up, and that it provided the means, maybe not the means, but the time to really think about things that they may have been considering, but they really couldn't make a priority. And now it's just like, well, now we've got to change things up, Right. And I think that one of the things that impresses me is, despite how small a group you are, is how much you managed to get done, even before this happened, Well,
that's true. I appreciate that observation, because it is kind of amazing. But, one of the reasons, there's been me and Brandon for 13 years, sometimes all by ourselves, and then sometimes we'd have a part-time, or maybe if we were lucky, we had 2 part-time people. Well, right before this happened, we had 6 staffers. Now they're 2 full-time, me and Brandon, and then the other 4 are a variety of part-time. But we just feel like we're in heaven, because there's 6 employees to help us, and then this whole board of directors and to also help us, because when you're just doing it by yourself, it's real hard. It was really hard on us for many years, and it was never easy. It's never been easy. And there were times that I thought when it was the Julia Dean Photo Workshops, there were times when I thought I was going to have to beg everybody to send some money in to keep us going. And amazingly, I never had to do that. And now I have to do it, so I've got, asking everybody to help us, and so many people everybody who can is helping us. And sometimes people send in $10, and that $10 was really hard for them to give up. And sometimes people have more. And, so it's what keeps us going is, 1, this community that we love so much. 2, we can't imagine not existing. I'm hoping this Los Angeles Center of Photography lives on forever. And we just really want the community. We want the LACP to thrive like it has, even more once we open the doors again.
Yeah. Why is it so important to you personally? You used the word "we" just now, but to you personally, why is it so important?
Well, it's funny, because some people know this about me, but many don't. I was a college teacher for 16 years before I started the Julia Dean Photo Workshops 21 years ago. And back then, all those years of being a college teacher, I always brought all my students over to my house on a weekly basis. And we'd look at photographs and drink a beer. They did. I don't like beer, but I drink a glass of wine. And we had so much fun, because it was all about photography and friendship and community. So I've been doing that since, day one of teaching, and that was 38 years ago. So what's happened is, I love pulling people together, and I love watching friendships happen under the roof that I happen to be in. And I just love watching that. And It's just that my roof has gotten bigger, so there's just more friends, which is really wonderful. I shouldn't say my roof; it's our roof. It's but the roof that I am under has gotten a lot bigger than it has been in the past. Our first place was 900 square feet, right on Venice Beach, and now we've got 6,900 square feet. So it's quite a difference.
People talk about networking a lot in photography. I think largely people who are professionals, but I have met so many fascinating people when I've managed to get out to like the openings and the mixers. I don't get out to them often enough, but every time that I have, I've just met some really fascinating people, and I get to discover work and people on the journey, which is really fun. I mean, I get to interview a lot of people as a result of the show, but it's always fascinating to see people who are in the midst of that spike. If you look at it as a bell curve, I think there's a time when people are kind of getting into it and they're very slow, and then they have this big spike, right? Where they're learning all these things, they're putting into practice, and they're developing, and you see these moments of epiphanies and breakthroughs. And that's always been part of the fun about being a teacher, but also being part of a community, because, we have, Safi Sabayak, we have Ellen Friedlander, we have so many people, some of whom have been on the show. And I've gotten to witness that with so many people who I've met through LACP. And I think that's really special. And I think it's something that people are really hungry for, because people can learn the photographic stuff, how to make a print, take a picture, all that stuff, virtually anywhere. But it's rare to find a space where that pursuit is nurtured. And I think you've been really good at being able to create that, and why I think it's so important that it persists. But for you personally, because I know you're actively out there making photographs. You're not just like a bureaucrat behind the desk all the time. You live in downtown Los Angeles. You're making pictures, and I'm wondering how your role here at LACP, how that's been essential to your development, your growth as a photographer.
Well, in the beginning, I was working so many hours the first 10 years that it kind of took away from my photography, because I had made the choice to leave my socially concerned documentary photography career behind to start this school. And it was a decision that I made, and I knew that I would have to kind of give up the kind of work that I love doing for the time being. And then I discovered, I started taking people on travel workshops so I could actually get out of town and take pictures. Mm-hmm. And then I woke up one day and went, why am I not taking pictures on the streets of LA, for goodness sakes? I live in this amazing city. And so 10 years ago, I started taking pictures of the streets of LA, mostly downtown, but Hollywood Boulevard, Venice Beach as well. And it's really become my real passion. So I think how LACP, in answer to your question, how LACP has kind of helped me decide what kind of photography I do. I don't know for sure, but I started teaching street photography classes once I started shooting on the street. And it's kept me so busy with I have a personal project every time I have a day off, which isn't that often, but at least once a week. I'll go out on a Sunday or a Saturday and I shoot once a week. And I don't think if I were not teaching street photography classes, I might not do that on my own. And I'm not actually getting together with my students and my advanced street photography friends right now because of the pandemic, but we always get together and then we all go off on our own and shoot, and then we get back together for lunch, and it's just really fun. And I think so LACP and me kind of guided or found my calling in photography while I'm in LA, while I'm in place and so forth. And I love it. It's funny because I love traveling, but I'm so happy to be on the streets of LA, not as much right now because of the pandemic, but I love it that I don't even necessarily need to go anywhere to shoot somewhere else because I like shooting downtown so much.
Well, let's talk about the work, because you moved downtown about 2 years ago?
No, I've been there since 2011.
2011, okay.
Yeah, so it's been 9 years I've lived downtown. And I moved there because Jay and I moved to downtown because I had been shooting on the streets since 2010, just, barely a year. and I didn't like the commute from the west side to downtown, and LACP had moved from the west side to Hollywood. So I came home one day and said to Jay, how do you feel about moving downtown? And he's a New Yorker, and he said yes in about 1 nanosecond. So we moved downtown into a loft, kind of a cool loft, and it really helped because I have my camera with me 24/7. So oftentimes I get pictures just not because I went out to shoot, but because I was on my way to work and to get into my car, or I was going around the corner to Starbucks or something, So that's why I like being downtown. It's kind of sad right now, being downtown, because I looked out this morning at 6:00 in the morning. The light's so beautiful, of course, and everything. I look out, and the only thing you see are homeless people because of the time that we're in right now. Nobody's on the streets except for the homeless people. Even during the day, it's the same thing. And then if it's cloudy, then it feels really depressing downtown. So, it's I am shooting on the streets though once a week, because I really want to document this time that we're going through. But it's a challenge because how do you shoot on a barren street and make it look like, COVID time versus just a Sunday morning on Christmas Day, or
Right.
it's just right. So nobody's out because everybody's sleeping at home. So that's been a challenge, and of course the masks tell a lot. And there's ways to do it, but it's hard to do good street photography when there's nobody on the street. I have to tell you. So I've enjoyed the challenge.
Yeah, because I see people going out and photographing these empty streets, but it's like you just said. It's like what's the telltale sign that it's now?
Right, exactly.
It's because there's that there, and it's really, really, really tough. I haven't made the effort to do that just because I couldn't figure out the solution to that. So I've just been photographing really close to home, photographing a lot of stuff in my house with my own family, and that's been sort of satisfying. Even though sometimes I get the itch to just hit the streets and go, I don't care how many people are out there or not out there. I just want to walk and just get lost.
You should have seen the flower district last week, the day before Mother's Day. You wouldn't know that there's a pandemic. It was crazy. It was scary. There's so many people all so close together, and they're all buying Mother's Day flowers.
Oh, and you're out there with protection, I assume, your mask.
Yeah, a lot of I have a lot of I take a lot of gloves so that I can change them a lot, and I have the mask and I stay the distance from everybody, and yeah.
You've been following a particular guy who lives downtown.
Yes, his name is Jose. That. Yes, well, I just put it together. It's ready to be sent off for hopefully for a publication. But I've been photographing him for 6 years, as a matter of fact. He lives in a colorful, interesting alley that's all gated up and locked in at night, that's surrounded by businesses that all have graffiti all over them. So it's a very colorful alley. I met him because I was on the streets downtown, and the alley was so colorful. I walked down it. It drew me down the alley, and I met Jose. And so over the years, every time I go to that part of town, I always go in to see him. I always usually have a couple students with me, and he lets us take his picture, and he just does his thing, and we wander around and follow him around. And so I've been shooting him for all these years, and then about 6 months ago or so, he and I talked about, why don't we do a more serious story and tell people more about how his life is in this alley. Mm-hmm. So he basically invited me in, and I jumped, and so I've been going there a couple times a week, and now I have about 100 really good pictures, and I've put them down to about 30. And I've sent them off to my friend Al Shaban, who works for the LA Times. He was one of my former students at the University of Nebraska. But I asked him if he would let me know which ones he thought I should send to Calvin at the LA Times, because Calvin has invited me to send them to him. So now I'm waiting to hear from Al, so I know which ones to send, because I like to have somebody help me decide. The story is about a man who is homeless, but it's different than what you normally think, because it's a community. He has this recycling business. He has friends that he looks out for. He cooks in the alley, and people come and go, and he basically, the name of the story is Guardian of the Alley, because the owners of the alley need somebody to always be looking out for things because there's a lot of things that can be stolen. So they like having him there, and it's become like a better homeless situation than most for him. You can tell people really respect and like him. So he's got kind of a good deal going, other than being homeless, of course, because he's got a lot of friends. So right now I feel like what I want to tell the world is I want to tell the world about how this community of homeless people live and interact with each other and what they do and why they're where they are. I just want to educate people. So it's kind of an awareness educational thing. Plus, Jose, who's illegal, he's an illegal immigrant. He wants to go home and he knows he can't come back. And I would love it if I could help that happen in some way. I don't know how. I don't know if writing an article and somebody sees pictures that can help you get him there. But I told him I'd drive him there. But I have to find out what happens with an illegal Mexican when you go across the border. So I've got 2 lawyers on that for me to let me know what that's all about. So see if I can take him.
I would like to think that the time I've been relegated to my house has been well used. It certainly has provided me the time to schedule interviews and do the research needed for each episode. But I've also gotten around to doing some things that I've been planning for a long time. For our Patreon supporters, I've begun a monthly meetup. Though we've only met twice, it's taking shape into a wonderful space that revolves around our mutual desire to be creative. It's not a workshop, but a place to share our mutual insights, desires, and challenges, and I hope that it grows into a valuable resource for listeners of the show. I've also just created a Discord account where Patreon supporters can dialogue amongst themselves and discuss photography and all things creative. I hope that it becomes a way for each of you to become connected to each other and feel less isolated on your personal photographic journeys. As I become more familiar with Discord, I will open some channels to general listeners, but for now it's only available to Patreon supporters. And if you want to join this growing community and help support the work we do at The Candid Frame, you can do it today by becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do that by contributing as little as $5 a month by visiting patreon.com/The Candid Frame. If you haven't done so already, please consider joining us today. Thanks. One of the things people often ask, do you make money from street photography? And for people who are dedicated to street photography, it's not about the money. I mean, if you want to get rich, you'll do something
That's for sure.
else, right? But part of the journey, I think, at least for me, is that at some point, the individual photograph that's producing a street photograph is just not enough. And that it just becomes, for me, it's becoming a need to tell more stories. And I think that, your project here really sort of speaks to that at some point, all those skills that you've developed in terms of being able to assess a scene, to react quickly, to make all those millions of choices that you have to make in order to make a photograph. At some point, you have to go beyond just making a nice looking photograph all the time. And
right.
And I think that this particular project is a really sort of good example of that. Because you're working ongoing with so many other photographers that take your street photography class, do you see that that's part of a progression that's happening with some of them? I know it's probably not happening with all of them, but with some of them, do you see that they're sort of expanding into that sort of more narrative area of using a camera?
Well, I think a few of them have. Some of the people that are taking in the street photography, some people that are enrolled in the street photography program are, I don't even call them students because they're so advanced in their shooting. They've been doing it for a long time that I call them my street photography friends. We call it Los Angeles Street Collective. It's a collective. And some of these people have taken my classes like 10 times. So that's how many times they've been on, 10 semesters of being on the street. So they get, really pretty good. Now, some of them just do it because they like the camaraderie and the exercise and they think it's challenging, which it certainly is. But the ones who are really serious photographers want to take it a little bit farther and do something else, like Safi, who does her nightlife stuff, and Thule, who does just amazing family photographs of her family. I mean, it should be worldwide seen. It's so good, all right? Mm-hmm. And so these are documentary projects that just come out of what they love doing, and it's a more serious step. And I'm not saying it's more serious than street photography. I'm just saying a documentary project is generally something that you really have to commit to, which does make it a little bit more serious. So I've spent 6 years photographing Jose. I spoke to an old friend today who's known me since we were 20 years old, and she goes, "How long have you been shooting?" And she says, 6 years. And she says, "Why haven't you done anything with this work yet?" And I said, "I'm ready to now. I haven't been until now." But I think that's another thing, is having a project. I mean, I'll still keep going to see Jose because he's my friend, and I'll take pictures, but there does come a time when you can finish the story, you can tell the story even though the story isn't over yet. His life is still going on. So you just kind of have to figure out where's the end of the story. Of course, a great ending would be him getting to go back to Mexico if that's what he really wants to do. But
Well, I think that one of the what I like about the collective and several of the ongoing classes that you have, like Elaine's classes, where she teaches people how to take bodies of work and edit them and then prepare them and learn how to talk about them. And I think that that's something that's often missing from a lot of photo education that's out there. Because you can go to a nice workshop like in Paris, or, spend 4 or 5 days in some city in the States. And it's great to produce the work, right? And then not have to think about anything else, just photography for that period of time. But then you come back home and then it's like, well, what next? Yes, I've got all these images on my hard drives. I got some pictures that I'm really pleased with, but at that point, you're just waiting for the next opportunity to do something like that. And I'd like you to sort of speak to some of those ongoing courses that go over a span of weeks,
yes,
or even longer. Because I think that's one of the unique things that you offer there at LACP.
Yes, we have a 10-month class taught by one of our most popular teachers, Aline Smithson, and it is all about, it's called the Personal Project. It's about working on your own personal work. But what she teaches during the whole class is how to get that work together, how to write your statement, how to get this body of work ready to show. And then she talks to you about where to show it, or where to get it published, or where to get it exhibited. So and that's what people haven't had most of their photographic life. They don't know where to get their work out. And one of the great things about LACP is that there's so many amazing teachers who teach here who have so much knowledge. And I wish I could take every class that is offered here, because I would learn so much from everybody. So that's what you have to keep in mind, with just how much you can learn from somebody like Aline, who knows everything about getting your work out there and about maybe going somewhere to get ready for a portfolio review, so she can guide you. So we've got classes like that taught by her and other people who guide you in your mission. We have a lot of our two biggest programs are our fine art program, and Aline is much to be credited for that program over the years, because she's been with us for so many years, and our street photography program. So those two, but we also have so many other opportunities in which to learn things, from fashion photography to still life, tabletop photography, anything somebody might want to know. We've even had underwater photography, and you name it, we've probably had it. And that's the beauty of this place, is not only the classes, the amazing classes that you can take by these outstanding teachers, but just the breadth of the knowledge that these teachers have that they can share with you. The people that take our 1-year program, they're the ones who get the most out of everything, because they're here for 1 solid year. And basically, for a low amount of money, you can take about any class you want. And so if you decide to take the year off from a job or something, then you really have a lot of time to take advantage of that program. A lot of people actually have full-time jobs and they go ahead and do both. But it's a wonderful program and it's really inexpensive and it's a great way to dive in. And what happens by being in that program is you get to meet almost every teacher that comes through here, because you're here so much. So that's a wonderful program as well.
So have you managed to translate that to virtually? So for people who aren't in the Los Angeles area to be able to take advantage of it? And what does it look like?
Well, yes, we're actually working on that right now because an online program, it basically they could just go ahead and do what the ones that come here do. They take all those classes are offered online too. Well, actually, I should say they won't be if we're back in session, and they will be if we aren't back in session. But we also have a lot of classes that are just online. So if we do a program like that, we have to have more online classes so that they'd be able to do it. So it's still got some work to do, but it's absolutely something we would love to do. To offer is a 1-year program for people that live in a different country. It would be great.
So you mentioned that you've had a bunch of great teachers. Tell us about some of the people you've had and some of the people to expect in the fall and the winter.
Sure. Well, gosh, I mean, some of our most popular people who have come back year after year that his class fills up every time is our mutual friend, Sam Abel, and he'll be coming back again. I always tell people to sign up in June for his February workshop because it fills up so fast. And so, he's a former National Geographic photographer and just adored by everybody, a fabulous photographer. People, and of course, you knew Mary Ellen Mark, Ibarionex, but unfortunately she's not with us any longer, but she was here twice teaching workshops, and we were very honored to have her. I mean, we've had really famous people like her and like Ralph Gibson and, Douglas Kirkland and we've had just a host of like really big name people. And then we've had people that live in Los Angeles who have very successful careers. Who are also well known in their field. And then we've had those, folks like that as well. I remember 20 years ago, or I should say maybe in the beginning it was just me teaching, which is why we called it the Julia Dean Photo Workshops. But then in time, maybe in a couple of years when I started inviting other teachers, I remember thinking, I can't wait until the day teachers call us and want to teach here, right? Because it was always me calling people, would you come teach for me? Would you come, and so it's really nice because now that's of course what happens is people call us and we call on people too, but now we're happy when people call us and want to send us their resume and talk to us about teaching, assuming they have teaching experience because that's what we require.
And you have a membership there that people can sign up for.
Membership is
how that works.
Yes, our membership is so very important to us. I think we must have about 800 members at this moment. I should ask Brandon because he knows. But members get the least expensive membership is $95 a year, and within about a month you get $95 worth of things that we offer at LACP. We really try to treat our members with just like royalty, and we try to do everything for them. Once a month, somebody gets their work on our website for an entire month. We have a members show. We have everybody gets all these webinars are, I think, free for the members, and $25 for non-members. And we list all the great opportunities for people to be members on our website. But we really ask our friends to become members because that's what we need to keep this place going, to keep supporting us. We need members and we need people and community. So, most people who come through here who take more than one class end up being a member just because they want to help us and they love the place and they want to show support. So we really count on our members.
So where do people go to find out more about all of this?
Well, our website is lacphoto.org. That will bring you up to our homepage, and you can look at any instructor by name. You can look at all our classes. You'll see all these drop-down menus. You can add yourself to our subscribe so that you get our newsletter each week. You can donate. There's a donate button right on the front page if you'd like. So that's the place to go see what's going on. But honestly, if you just go subscribe, then you'll just get our newsletters every week, and then you'll definitely know what's going on here.
And my last question that I ask each guest is I ask them to recommend a photographer for our listeners to explore on their own. And it can be anyone, someone you've long admired or someone you've recently discovered. So who would that photographer be and why?
I'd like to talk about my friend Joel Sartori.
Okay.
There's so many people I could brag about that I love so much. But Joel, I had the pleasure of meeting in 1982 when he walked into my photojournalism class at the University of Nebraska. He was 19 years old and I was 27, and we've been friends ever since. He was so good from day one that you just knew that he was going to be a superstar. He graduated, got great jobs at newspapers, ended up working for National Geographic for many, many years. And now he's doing something so significant that I liken it to Edward Curtis's project on the Native Americans, because Edward Curtis, he spent 30 years, and it wasn't easy what he did, and he practically lost everything, his family and everything. But that project that he photographed, these Native Americans, we wouldn't even know what any of these people look like if it weren't for Edward Curtis, and we wouldn't know about their lives like we know. And what Joel's doing is Joel is photographing every living species that is in captivity in the world. Now, he's gotten so much attention for it of recent that he doesn't have to do all the calling like he used to. Zoos are calling him, going, "Come, I've got this for you." But it's a lot of work, and he says it's going to take him 30 years too, and he's been at it, I think, about 15. Now, he's been on like 60 Minutes 3 times. He's funny as can be. He's been at the Annenberg, at the Broad so many times. He's such a good speaker, and he has such a message that he's trying to get across while he's funny and while his photographs are to die for. And he was really talking about, the world and the state of the world, and a lot of these species that he's photographed have already gone extinct just in the 15 years that he's been doing the project. So the name of his project, his name is Joel Sartori. Probably everybody that's listening knows about him already, but his project is called the Photo Arc, and it's just definitely worth knowing about.
Oh yeah, and for people who haven't heard my interview with him, I think I did it about 4 or 5 years ago. So you can, that's a wonderful recommendation. And Julia, it's always a pleasure to see you, but I'm glad we had a chance to talk.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. I love seeing you.
Thanks to Julia for joining us. Find out more about her and her work by visiting juliadean.com and visit lacphoto.org to find out more about what the Los Angeles Center of Photography has to offer you. In July, I'll be offering 2 separate online courses. The first is through LACP and is called Creating Personal Breakthroughs. This course is designed to help you transition from just making individual photographs and transition into creating bodies of work that can be shared in an exhibition, book, or portfolio. I will teach you how to reconsider who you are as a photographer and how to express that by identifying your strengths. My other course through Nobechi Creative is Use Your Life to Jumpstart Your Photography. In this class, I'll teach you how to use your everyday life as the source of endless creativity. You'll learn how to see and photograph the ordinary and mundane with new eyes and transform that vision into great photography, even if you'd never leave the comfort of your own home. Find out more about both courses in the show notes or by visiting the website at thecandidframe.com. If you're a devoted listener and subscribe to the show, write us a review on whatever service you listen to podcasts. Those reviews have allowed us to grow. Thanks to True Liberty for its 5-star review and for your comments about the previous episode. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and our mailing list. On the YouTube channel, I offer critiques on images submitted by TCF listeners like you, while the mailing list keeps you updated with all TCF events, including workshops and more. Sign up today. And remember, you can support the show by contributing to our Patreon effort or make a one-time or reoccurring donation via PayPal. Thanks to Jeffrey Nisler, David Bergler, Camila Mendez, Eric Gorlitzer, and Susan Sanders for their recent contributions. We also provide a series of ebooks on photography available for purchase on our website. It's my way of sharing my experience and knowledge and another way for you to support the show. And if you can't find every episode of the show, download the Candid Frame app, which is available for both Apple iOS and Android. And because of your generosity, it's free to download and use. No additional purchases are required. The Candid Frame's audio engineer is Martin Taylor, who you can find at theothermartintaylor.com. The show's senior producer is Cynthia Parker. And our music is from Kevin MacLeod, whose royalty-free music can be found at incompetech.com. And this is Ibari NX, and this is The Candid Frame.